Mr. Kenny Youmans, storytelling might be becoming a lost art. That's true. One of my members is good at it as anybody I know. He's going to tell us a story. Sit back, take a sip, enjoy a few minutes of old-time good entertainment. Welcome home, Kenny Youmans.
King Henry VIII said to each of his 6 different wives, I promise I will not keep you long. I want to share with you tonight the connection of church and coffee. Now, all of you are familiar with coffee. Most of you probably drink coffee. But you may not realize how big coffee really is. Coffee is the 2nd largest commodity in the world next to the petroleum industry. It's the #1 drink in the world. Over 8 billion cups of coffee are consumed every day. When you think about coffee, you usually think about Colombia. But actually, Brazil is by far the #1 country in the production of coffee. Now, the first coffee house was in 1475 in Constantinople. Coffee was first introduced in America in 1607 by Captain John Smith in Jamestown, Virginia. And the first coffee house in England was 1652. And you may be interested in knowing that famous insurance company, Lloyd's of London, started out as a coffee house in 1682. That's where the insurance agents and the ship owners met every morning for coffee. And you may also be interested in knowing that Lloyd's of London Coffee House was the very first place where people started tipping. You know, tipping the waiters, tipping the waitresses. They had a sign that said TIPS, to ensure prompt service. And people would tip before they were served in order to ensure they would be served promptly and properly. Well, in 1842, the first espresso machine was invented in Paris, France. But it really became popular in Italy, and today there are over 200,000 espresso bars in Italy. Well, 1842, the first espresso machine was invented in Paris, France. I just said that. I'm sorry. I hope you got it the first time. In 1882, Maxwell House was first started. Maxwell House Coffee was named after a hotel in Nashville, Tennessee. And at one time, Maxwell House Coffee was the #1 selling coffee in America. And in 1907, President Theodore Roosevelt was visiting Nashville and staying at the Maxwell House Hotel. And he was offered his very first cup of Maxwell House coffee. And after finishing this cup, he was asked if he would like another. And he said, yes, indeed, indeed I would. It's good to the last drop. And that's how Maxwell House Coffee came up with that famous slogan, Maxwell House Coffee is good to the last drop. And in 1941, every soldier in World War II had a packet of instant Maxwell House coffee in their ration kit. Well, in 1948, Dunkin' Donuts opened their first store in Quincy, Massachusetts. Today they have around 15,000 locations. They're operating in over 20 different countries, and 65% of their revenue comes from coffee, not from donuts. Well, in 1972, Starbucks opened their first store in Seattle, Washington. Today, they have over 40,000 locations. They're operating in over 75 countries, and last month they did over $2 billion in revenue. And you may be interested in knowing how Starbucks got that name. They got that name from the first mate on the ship in the book, Moby Dick. So if you may have saw that, read that book or saw that movie, that's how they got the name, the first mate on the ship in the book, Moby Dick. And just as a side note, Moby Dick was written in 1852. It's based on a true story and is considered to be the first American classic. And in 1852, it was the best-selling book on the market, except for the Bible. Well, all this is interesting, but what does church have to do with coffee, and what does coffee have to do with the church? Well, in 850 AD, a goat herder in Ethiopia noticed that he changed his goat from one field to another. There was one particular field where all the goats seemed to have more energy harder than that. So after doing some investigating, he discovered this one field, they were eating beans on a tree. So he decided he would try the beans, gave him more energy, made him more alert. He started sharing it with his friends. They started falling in the water. And that was the very beginning of coffee in 850 AD. Well, in the early 1500s, Pope Vincent III was the Pope of Italy. And his coffee began to get somewhat popular in Italy. Some of the people went to Pope Vincent III and asked Pope Vincent III to ban coffee because they said it was a drink of the devil. But it was too late. Pope Vincent III was already drinking coffee and he loved it. So he told him it was really a drink from God because it helped keep the monks awake doing long prayers. So he blessed coffee. Coffee began to flourish in Italy. Today coffee is #1 drink in the world. And as Paul Harvey used to say, now you know the rest of the story.